Hello, everybody, and welcome back. This is episode 4 now of This Week in the Bay, and we've got, as usual, we got baseball, basketball, and football, along with another sport. We're going to get into that really soon, but first, Drew, let us know. Introduce our guest today.
Oh, yes. So today we have my friend Zan. He is in 5th grade at my school, or 6th grade, sorry. School year just started. I'm forgetting about the new grades. Hey, don't neck me. But Zan's going to be here. He'll answer some questions, and this should be fun.
All right. So, like I said, we are doing a new sport today that we're not talking about on a regular basis, but we're going to talk a little bit of boxing, actually. I know we're not talking Canelo GGG. We are going to talk about Floyd Mayweather. And so, if you didn't hear, Floyd Mayweather recently said that he was going to jump out of retirement and go back into boxing to fight Manny Pacquiao again. And so we wanted to talk about that. Drew, what did you want to say about on that topic?
Well, I just think it's kind of stupid because he has nothing to win here. Like, obviously, he can make money, but it's not actually helpful to him to just say, oh, I'm going to come out of retirement here. Because the last thing that Floyd Mayweather needs is more money. And all he can do is hurt himself, like physically hurt himself. So I really don't understand his thinking.
And I'm currently in an ESPN article by Dan Rafael. He said that basically the fight last time wasn't even a good fight. Mayweather won easily. He dismantled Pacquiao, and I mean, why would we want to see that again? Why would we want to just watch a fight that we wasn't good the first time? Why would it be better the second time? It doesn't really make sense for this to happen. But if you're Floyd, you can make another a huge amount of money again. I guess that is something that you might want to do. Like Drew said, he doesn't need any more money.
Finances
really, he's
are the least
just
of his
fine.
concerns.
But I mean, if you do what you want to do, if you're Floyd Mayweather, I guess. Anything on that then? No? Alright, that's going to wrap it up for the one big topic to
Boxing's
start off
nobody's
the show.
thing.
Okay. So we're going to jump right into some NFL. And we saw week 1 of the NFL go on last weekend. The week 2 will really get underway tomorrow. But week 1 was a very interesting week. There were a few games that we especially wanted to touch on. So we're going to start off with the games that were not played by our hometown teams. So let's start off with the first game that happened in this sequence, and that is going to be the Steelers and the Browns.
Oh, yeah, that game's fine by me. Never mind.
So
I thought you were talking about the Eagles again. But yes, I love the Steelers.
All right.
No,
so,
I don't like the Steelers.
Steelers-Browns. Steelers-Browns. Okay. The Steelers played the Browns, and the Browns are trash, right? Because, well, they're supposed to be trash. They went 0-16 last season. It literally does not get worse than that.
It's
and
a new day.
You know what happens? They go against the Steelers, who are supposed to be competing for an AFC title year in and year out, and they tied. That was horrible. I mean, no one goes into a football game and is excited when the teams tie. First of all, tie's like, oh no, I don't know about tie.
If you're a Browns fan,
a
Browns fan, a tie is basically a win.
Okay, the Browns Browns actually had their best start of any football season since 2004.
And the Browns could have won. They had a field goal.
They should have won. Their kicker choked it away. No. Actually, no. The Browns got their field goal blocked, which I think is not as bad as Chris Boswell just outright missing a field goal. So I mean, actually, it's not the kicker's fault for the Browns. It's I guess the offensive line for the field goal attempt. But Chris Boswell choked
Got my defense and fantasy a couple more points.
I mean, I don't really know exactly what to say about this one, except for the Steelers. They need Mr. Le'Veon Bell back because you can't be putting up 21 against the Browns, and when you have Antonio Brown on your team, and they're supposed to have Ben Roethlisberger, and James Conner played well actually. So,
I disagree.
I don't know if that is really going to help too much, but
problem. Big Ben was.
Big Ben was
Big Ben threw 3 picks.
But I feel like Big Ben would be a little more comfortable knowing he has Le'Veon Bell, and I know James Conner played really well.
True.
Obviously,
James Conner went for 135.
Obviously, James Conner was not the issue.
AB went for just 93 and a touchdown though. Jesse James 60 yards. I mean, and
there was good. The receivers were just fine. I mean, Antonio Brown, though, targeted 16 times for 9 catches. That's not great. I mean, I didn't watch this game, so I can't tell you exactly if there were drops or just bad throws or whatever. He didn't have a chance to get to them. But Ben Roethlisberger, you can't lose 2 fumbles. First of all, that should never happen. You should never lose 2 fumbles in a game, no matter what position you play. And you should also never throw. Well, I guess you don't want to throw 3 picks in a game ever either. And you definitely can't do those both in the same game. That's awful.
Against the Browns.
Come on now.
Shout out to the Browns. They sold out the stadium. 67,000 right there.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's enough talking about the Cleveland Browns. I think that's as much as anyone can take, including our listeners. So we're going to move on to the next game. This game was very exciting in a good way, not in a tie 20-21 Browns-Steelers way. We got Packers and we've got Bears, and obviously we're going to get into Khalil Mack because that and we're around a lot of Raiders fans, and that was definitely the story for all Raiders fans watching that game. But let's talk about the game from the Packers' point of view. And you're going to see Aaron Rodgers go down with an injury and just come back and do what Aaron Rodgers does and absolutely carry the Green Bay Packers like he's been doing for so long. Carry them to that win with the late touchdown, with 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. What a performance by Aaron Rodgers.
He made Randall Cobb look good.
Okay, that was unnecessary, but...
And Geronimo Allison has the best football name of all time. Not the best name of all time, because there is this guy named Ryan Baroque, and there is this guy named Alex Smith.
This has literally nothing to do with anything.
I don't care.
Let's go back to what we're actually supposed to be talking about. Aaron Rodgers.
Oh yeah, he did well. Yeah, he was good. I don't know how they won that game, actually.
Because Aaron Rodgers threw 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. And
Leo Mack, though, I felt like...
Well, we're about to talk about that. Let's actually talk about the game first.
I am, though, because, Khalil Mack, the way he was going in the first half, it just felt like it was never going to stop, and it was very scary if you're a Green Bay Packers fan. I don't know which I would have been more scared of as a Green Bay Packers fan. The fact that they had to have Deshaun Kaiser throw the ball, or that Khalil Mack was playing.
He almost had a touchdown.
He's still Deshaun Kaiser, but that's not the point. I don't know.
All right. Well, the point of this was supposed to be talk about how good Aaron Rodgers was, and Aaron Rodgers was incredible. You're gonna see a man who he didn't play the whole game, but he ended up with almost 300 passing yards, 286 in total. 9.5 was his average in terms of yards per completion, I believe, and then he went for 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, QBR or passer rating, of 130.79. But it was bad.
It's weird, though, because they should have a running game. If you look at their running game...
Come wide receiver who they were.
Which?
Wide receiver for Stanford.
Running back.
He was a wide receiver for Stanford. I remember watching him. Stanford.
He played running back at some point before he was in the NFL. So you have
and Jimmy Graham. They should have targeted him more. In my opinion.
That's a good point. I do like Jimmy Graham. I think he should have been targeted. I mean, you got a good tight end corner, actually. You look at Graham, Lance Hendricks, Mercedes Lewis, and then not Robert Tanyan, because I don't know who that is. But the other three are solid players.
Ty Montgomery was a wide receiver in college. He had some carries, but he was a wide receiver.
Maybe he was a running back in high school. But I remember hearing about him, and he was like, he knew something about being a running back. It wasn't just like, oh, you're kind of fast and you can break tackles. Be a running back now. He knew something, but maybe I'm wrong. I went wrong somewhere.
You're probably wrong.
Wow, I see how it is.
According to FootballReference.com, he played wide receiver all throughout college. He did have carries, a lot of carries, especially in his senior year, but he is listed at wide receiver. He had way more receptions than carries. So, yeah. But aside from that, we're going to talk a little bit about Khalil Mack because, as we mentioned last show, especially Khalil Mack, obviously got traded, blockbuster deal to the Bears. And what does he do? First half, absolutely dominates. Like, the man did exactly what the Raiders loved about him when he was here, when he was in Oakland playing for the Raiders. He ends up with a sack and a pick six, and the sack, it was a strip sack. He took the ball literally right out of
You just
Deshaun
like
Kaiser's
you
hand.
thought you had
He
it.
literally
Mine now.
snatched it
Now get it.
like stealing candy from a baby. He just took it. He literally took it. He took it away from him. And he was an absolute playmaker in the first half, especially. But I mean, I don't know if there's that much more to say besides that John Gruden clearly, I don't know. I mean, unless he gets a couple stars out of those draft picks, that's not going to be looked at as any good of a trade.
I officially think that if John Gruden wasn't the Raiders head coach, he'd be my least favorite coach in the league, and he might almost be even
Why?
now. Like, he's
He
beefing with the players. He came here. No.
Oh, he inherits players and then just.
Yeah, he's brought in to help make what's his name? Derek Carr better. And in the game one, I remember somebody saying Derek Carr looked more like David Carr in that game. And then he comes out after the game, and in the press conference, he's like, oh, I don't know why Derek Carr didn't throw the ball down the field. And then Derek Carr comes back, and he's like, oh, well, it's kind of weird having a coach that expects you to take a sack instead of trying to get the first down on third down. So there's clearly some communication problems between two of their players.
Oh, no, that doesn't sound.
A player and a coach. So.
Doesn't sound like a healthy relationship to me.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm just saying.
And, yeah, Derek. Okay, here's my thing on John Gruden. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I don't think that move was that good of a football move. I mean, I know John Gruden is a huge name, but that really sounds like to me they really brought him in for PR purposes because you know where they're going. Just like I believe it's next. Aren't they moving next year to Las Vegas?
Yes.
So why would you not want to have a huge name coach and John Gruden be the face of your franchise? That it seems like
also came back to play for Oakland, not to just go to Vegas.
Yeah, that's true. So Marshawn was probably gone.
So
after
Marshawn,
that.
or
was
maybe
not going to be happy.
Maybe he'll
Although-
go to the Niners.
Marshawn would probably have fun in Vegas, though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Marshawn could
true.
have plenty of fun in Vegas.
That's true.
But
one
that
more
is
thing
besides
I wanna
the
say,
point.
One more thing I want to say that Browns reportedly plan on cutting ties, quote unquote, on
with Josh Gordon.
Josh
yeah.
Gordon. So
That
he
is
got
true.
injured recently, and now he's
Although
not expected.
a lot of teams,
to
instead of release, which was originally the expectation, a lot of teams have been calling the Browns, and apparently he's expected to be traded now instead of being released. Which means, and I know he had a touchdown catch, a pretty nice touchdown catch in Week 1, and so we'll see where that goes. But I think Josh Gordon is now expected to be traded within the next couple of days. He only ended up with one catch, but it was a 17-yard touchdown against the Pittsburgh Steelers
That was the game time touchdown.
in Week 1, and it was he mossed a guy. It was an impressive catch too. He went up completely over the defender, just took it up off of him. It was a very nice catch. So I don't know how bad the injury is. I'm gonna be honest. I really don't know any details on the injury, but we'll see. That a team could actually get a lot better by getting a healthy Josh Gordon if he's able to stay out of trouble, because he is a legitimate game changing receiver.
And
when
the
he's
question
healthy,
is kind of
playing
hard
his
to
best.
answer, but if he were to get signed, what team do you think would be best to him to go to?
Honestly, I think the Niners could use another receiver.
I'd
That
like
wouldn't
to say
hurt
that
at all.
the Niners, I definitely
Jordy
don't
Nelson.
think it's going to be the Raiders, but the team that seems like he's going to end up with is the Titans.
Titans?
Some reason, he just seems like a Titans receiver. Also, if we have a minute, I'd like to share a video.
What?
Let's go.
Does it have anything to do with anything? No, we can't. Stop.
This is important.
Stop.
No,
No,
It's about
it's
the
not
Raiders.
important.
It's about the Raiders.
We're the undisputed stars of the best
That's
conference
Tom Brady.
in all of football. The AFC. How about a cheers? To the AFC, Scott. Huh? Raiders are back, baby. Back in black. Carr and Cooper and Crabtree making the AFC feel badly. We've awakened the Raider Nation, the team from the 70s reincarnation. Back in black and we make it look easy. Cooper catches Carr, call it ACDC. Come to the black hole. We make enemies. Raiders break records, especially for penalties. Oakland Raiders breaking records with our playlist. They will Fort Davis if we move to Las Vegas. Cause the Raiders belong in the 5-1 out. No Davis in the water's gonna tell me when to go. I be catching hella misses, scoring hella piss. I'm a player getting it, but they wanna blow the whistle. Just win, baby, got the stunner slam close. And I got 5 on it cause I'm staying in Oakland.
I'm just saying, it said there that they were staying in Oakland. So, I know that's a pretty pointless video,
100%
but my
unnecessary
point,
because they couldn't see it and they could have just watched it on YouTube on their own time.
my point was that was Derek Carr, Michael Crabtree, and Amari Cooper, and they clearly wanted to stay in Oakland. Now, I know that Michael Crabtree's not on the team anyways, but I think he is trying to stay in Oakland.
Well,
The team's, some of the players.
some of the people want to stay in Oakland. That's probably the case because there's a great fan base in Oakland, and you don't really know how much of a fan base there will be in Las Vegas since it's really a tourist city. But anyways,
What is Oakland?
we're gonna move back over to the scheduled programming, and since we were just talking about the Raiders, let's get into the Raiders game. How that went, and how that went was badly on all accounts for the Raiders. Like we mentioned, Derek Carr threw 3 picks. He did throw for 300 yards on a good completion percentage, but 3 interceptions, obviously never good. It was pretty much expected that the Raiders would lose that game,
that's what I
and
was
by
gonna
a
say.
pretty decent margin. And so, yeah, Todd Gurley, great game for him. Brandon Cooks played well. You're going to see, Jared Goff had not the greatest game, but it was good enough. Honestly, that was a little Blake Bortles-like game right there. He didn't have to throw for many yards, but played pretty well. Well, definitely well enough to win that game, especially when your defense gets 3 interceptions.
I mean, it would have been Blake Bortles, except he had 2 touchdown passes, so.
And the
Yeah.
Raiders defense.
And no interceptions.
Still.
No, he was a game manager, which is his job, especially this year with the defense that the Rams have put together.
And
Donald,
the Todd Gurley
Sue,
that the
Peters,
Rams have taken.
all those
But
guys.
Actually, I think you're kind of right, because if Blake Bortles played against the Raiders defense, I think this is the kind of game he would have.
That's true. Even Blake Bortles would find a way not to throw a pick.
Eli Manning would find a way not to throw a pick.
That is a stretch.
Yep.
Eli Manning. I don't know.
The Raiders didn't get
That's
an
a tough
interception
one.
until week 10 last year.
That's true. The Raiders' defense is trash.
Actually, no, it was week 11, because they had a bye
There's
week.
no
in week 10.
disputing. There's no disputing that. There's no disputing the Raiders' defense is trash, especially when it comes to
You went
forcing
into your
turnovers.
bye week.
And the only guy that could force turnovers,
Was Khalil Mack.
yeah, he's
And
wearing a
maybe
Bears
Bruce
uniform.
Irvin.
Yeah, Bruce
Like-
Irving's the other
like
decent player
twice.
on their
The
defense.
other decent
But
player.
Bruce Irvin was also a lot better because of Khalil
Khalil
Mack.
Mack.
And then there's this guy named Reggie Nelson, and guess
Reggie
what?
Nelson.
He sucks!
He's washed.
He needs to leave.
Wasn't he? He was on the Bengals. He's that guy on the Bengals, right?
He kept trying to cheat in the game on Monday, he would come down. No, not like that kind of
What
cheat.
are
Like,
you talking
he was trying to
about?
jump a route, and he'd come down, and then
Get
they just
burned?
lob it over his head. And he'd
Sean
get
Smith
burned.
style, just get burned.
Yeah, Sean Smith style.
But yeah, the Raiders' defense is just subpar. Well, there's nothing like beyond that to say about the Raiders' defense. But you know, Goff played
Also,
pretty well
Marcus Peters got fined for grabbing his balls and
$13,000
jumping into the
because
end
he did.
zone.
Yeah, he did the Marshawn Lynch celebration from a few years back when he was on Seattle, where he jumped backwards into the end zone. So
and grabbed his ball sacks.
yeah, that was an interesting one. I like that
Wait,
Marcus Peters did that.
Is not on
Isn't
the
Marcus
Chiefs anymore?
or
Yeah, he got
is
traded
Marcus
last
Peters
year.
the one that Marcus Peters is like Marshawn Lynch's cousin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
He-
Marshawn Lynch
the
went out to
fight
defend him
year.
last year.
Yeah, the fight
You know,
last
yeah,
year.
and Marshawn Lynch got ejected. That was interesting, but yeah. So Marcus Peters with that pick six, showing his worth immediately. A lot of probably isn't actually a good thing as a cornerback. Don't you want the least amount of tackles because your receiver didn't actually catch the ball?
Well, it depends on.
I don't know.
Because you could come up.
I mean, it depends. It depends. As long as they're not deep plays, then you're fine. Whatever. The Rams did what they were supposed to do. They won by 20 against the Raiders, who aren't any good because their best player is gone. It was not. It was
Best
not. There's not.
player?
There's really not much to report.
Yes, best player.
Khalil
Who do
Mack.
you think their best player
Definitely.
was?
That's-
Khalil Mack's definitely their best player.
Amari Cooper,
Amari
Mr.
Cooper.
Drop 10 balls in a game.
AKA Butterfingers. Cooper.
Derek Carr,
But-
Mr. Throw 4 picks.
Can we tell? Only
It's
3. Amari Cooper only had 3 targets.
This time.
Amari Cooper only had 3 targets. If he's supposed to be your number 1 receiver, he can't be getting a third of the or a quarter of the amount of targets as Jared Cook,
No, that was
who
the,
went absolutely off.
that was the Jared Cook. No, not Jared Cook. That was the John Gruden, Derek Carr dispute with like him getting receptions.
I don't know. I don't like John Gruden so far. Let me say that. As if I was a Raiders fan, I would really hate John Gruden. I don't know. It's nothing he's done has made any sense so far. But you know, let's move on to the team in the Bay Area that people are actually optimistic about, and that is your San Francisco 49ers. Jimmy Garoppolo. Bad. He was bad. I'm sorry,
I'll
but
give him a little
there's
bit of
no,
credit.
no, no, no.
The
15 for
Vikings-
33, my guy.
Vikings
That's
are good.
bad.
The Vikings are
No, the Vikings
Best
have a
defense in the league.
the Vikings have a top level
That's a
defense. The
stretch.
Vikings were the best defense in the league last year. Statistically, they
and
were.
this year.
The Vikings
They
have a
will be.
really good
Have you
defense.
met the Jaguars?
The Vikings
I
had a
haven't
better
met the
defense last year. Statistically, the Vikings were the best defense in the league last year. So that is the reason why it's not really bad that Jimmy Garoppolo didn't have a great game, but that game was a bad game. It wasn't a not good game. It was a bad game, right? Like
That's true.
3
It really
interceptions.
was boring to watch.
And his completion percentage is really like Derek Carr threw 3 picks, but his completion percentage was up almost at 75%. Jimmy Garoppolo was below 50. He had a shooting percentage.
What?
You can't have that. That's not
Yeah. Big ball
I'm a-
with the
like,
NBA shooting percentage.
that doesn't fly. You can't no, that's 45%. That's literally a good 3-point percentage. That's a horrible passer or completion percentage. That's really where that game becomes worrisome because of
Whoa! No.
how okay,
Wait.
Drew.
Sorry.
Because of how low his completion percentage was.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
But you know, and the Niners had chances.
Ooh.
Jimmy Garoppolo threw a pick.
Somebody like fumbled on the 3-yard line.
Yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo threw a pick in the third quarter
Alfred
when they could have
Morris.
tied the game with a score.
Alfred Morris, that was it.
First play of the drive, Jimmy Garoppolo threw a pick in the fourth quarter when they needed a score there. It was Jimmy Garoppolo threw 3 second half picks, and it was they really had shots to win the game. But when Jimmy Garoppolo throws picks, he threw too many picks at the end of the game when he needed to not throw picks. Literally not throw picks. They needed scores, and he threw picks.
And for
Okay, I have a question for you, though.
For me,
Yeah. So, week 1 quarterbacks went 0-7. Or not quarterbacks, what am I saying? New coaches went 0-7. Which do you think is most likely to win? John Gruden, Matt Nagy,
who?
Matt Patricia. Matt Nagy's the Bears guy. Frank Reich with Colts.
Nope.
Pat Shermer, Mike Rabel, he's an idiot, and Steve Wilkes. Those are your 7 guys.
I don't.
So I'll
like,
now
what-
we'll go through the teams.
what team?
Raiders, Bears, Lions, Colts, Giants, Titans, and Cardinals. Which team? do
I
you
think the
is-
Titans are 100% excused because of the amount of injuries that they suffered in Week 1. I mean, Mariota with the injury. Also,
Texans or Cardinals beat Rams.
well, Cardinals are off the list because the
Cardinals
Rams
are already off the
are
list.
probably the best team in the league. I might go with the Giants here because the Giants have Saquon Barkley, who showed that he at least
Is a god.
he wasn't incredible besides that one
Yeah,
run.
he wasn't even that
He-
good. He had one
But-
good run.
He did have the one run that was explosive, and it takes one explosive run a game to be a top tier running back.
That's true.
And that that has to count for something. So Barkley played what I thought was a good. I mean, it's a solid game statistically, and when you do have the potential to be that explosive, that is what makes you an elite running back. And you had Beckham do his thing out there, show why you got paid. I mean, those are two weapons that can easily get 3 touchdowns, and even if it's not them that get the touchdowns, if Saquon Barkley has a 40-yard run and gets pushed out of bounds at the 7. Then you can throw a touchdown to Sterling Shepard on a slant route or whatever it may be. Evan Engram might catch a touchdown. They can create drives that score points just between those guys. They can. The sorry Cowboys that put up
Yes.
8 points in Week 1 with that boy Dak Prescott at quarterback
They were playing the
against the
Carolina Panthers. I'm sorry though. Can't be doing that stuff.
I gotta go with the Giants. The Giants have weapons, and in given week they could go off and end up winning the game for their team. Eli Manning, though, Eli Manning is possibly an issue, but he only threw 1 pick against the Jacksonville Jaguars, which is not bad.
Wait, I got a question.
A question?
But
Please don't
it
say
wasn't
that.
pick six.
Matt
Yeah.
Patricia, the defensive coordinator of last year's best team in football, gave up 48 points to the Jets week 1.
That's an issue.
Like,
And how many picks
Big
did
Bella, what you want?
how many picks did he
But,
throw? Matt Stafford, he threw like 4 picks, right? Or was it 3 or
the
4?
team, it was something like that. I don't
Was
really
it
know.
3 or 4?
It's-
How do you lose
It
48?
was a lot.
Probably
It
Like
was a
Chicago.
lot.
you asked like
4
how
picks.
like
Matt
what?
Castle threw a pick.
Jesus.
Matt Castle.
How do you throw 4 picks against the Jets?
And then
And Sam Darnold went off. I mean, Sam Darnold apparently is a good player. I mean, in one game he's very good. But come on, man, he's a rookie.
he's willing to
You're gonna let
take
a dude in
those
his
risks.
first game throw a
Which is
pick
good.
on his first pass and then just torch you the rest of the night? Come on, man. He completed 80% of his passes for the rest of the game with 2 touchdowns and 200 yards. Come on, man, that's trash.
Okay.
And they over 102 yards, 2 touchdowns. What are you doing?
yeah, like a 50
You
yard
suck. You literally suck.
But the team I think is most likely to win with the new coach is Matt Nagy.
Yes.
Getting the Bears their first win. They have Seattle on Monday Night Football.
Okay.
The sorry Seattle.
Seattle sucks besides Russell Wilson. It's like an extreme version of the
Doug
Packers.
Baldwin.
It's
Doug
an extreme
Baldwin's
version of
injured.
the Packers.
It's Doug Baldwin.
Doug Baldwin.
He's injured.
I don't care. He's on my
Apparently.
fantasy team.
Well,
Believe.
that kind of sucks for you.
Hashtag. Brown lost, big fella. But other than the Steelers, real losses, the closest team was the Bears.
I have 2 things to say. One, the Browns' longest rush of the day, or the Browns, sorry, the Detroit Tigers, what am I saying? All right, the Detroit Lions' longest rush of the day was a 9-yard rush by Kerryon Johnson.
Kerryon Johnson sucks. I had him on my
What do you
fantasy
mean?
team. I dropped him.
9 yards. Okay.
I dropped this man. He's trash.
And the second,
Tevin Coleman.
what was this? I forgot the second thing I was gonna say. Actually,
Devontae
All right.
Freeman's injured.
what were we just
Tevin
talking
Coleman.
about? Like the
Legendary.
Seahawks.
Yeah. I was talking about how I thought the Bears were going to beat the Seahawks because...
And
Yeah, I have
let's
no
just
idea what
touch
someone
real
else
quickly on Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Oh,
What happens?
Ryan Fitzpatrick's a
Ryan
legend.
Fitzpatrick plays well like every few years, and then he gets overpaid.
Hey, wait, whoa. I just want to say,
Drew Brees.
48-40. Like,
Saints defense just gave up 48 points.
and
The
same
To
Browns
Ryan
lost.
Fitzpatrick.
The Browns just tied the Steelers. Upset alert much? Upset alert?
that Fitzpatrick also had a rushing
Okay.
touchdown.
If Drew Brees gives up 5 turnovers, then yes, the Steelers or the Browns will beat them. Yeah, I'll give you
Wait.
that. But I don't think Drew Brees has turned the ball over 5 times.
Wait, why?
Huh? Because in week 1,
Oh,
Big Ben turned the ball over 5 times. So if there's 5 turnovers from Drew Brees, then I will give the Browns the game. But if there's not,
Wait, did BYU beat
yes, BYU.
Wisconsin?
Yeah, Wisconsin got screwed over. Anyway, that
Yeah.
is.
Wisconsin's trash.
Oh wait, was there any more you want to say on Niners Vikings?
Nope.
Yeah. All right. I thought Jimmy wasn't great. He wasn't very good. He didn't have to be great, but he was a little not good enough. Apparently, I was way ahead of myself in predicting the Niners to pull that one out. But, it's a decent start. The Niners aren't expected to really win this year. They're more of a 3 years down the road, they'll be really good type of team. Anyways, let's get
Something happened to Marquise Goodwin.
to the NBA. And we had a quote from Dirk this week talking about how good Luka Doncic is. And so I wanted to say, I think we should talk a little bit about the NBA rookies. Maybe not a rookie of the year prediction per se, but just give a favorite rookie from the draft. I have mine.
So do I.
I think Drew and I have the same one. Zan, do you have any rookie you want to talk about before we get into ours, or?
Oh, you mean
Young's
this-
going to be interesting.
Trae
I
Young.
want to see how he pulls it out because, like Lonzo Ball, Lonzo looked great in college, and then when he got to the NBA,
He struggled. He definitely
what
struggled.
happened?
I do
Whoa.
think that Trae Young's an extremely underrated player because he's a really good point guard in terms of passing.
But
But
same thing with Lonzo. Lonzo was
yeah.
known for his passing, and he got into the
But
NBA.
the shooting, you got to get way more consistent
That's
with that.
true.
And Drew, did you want to say something?
Are we talking
You
about
can't really make a living shooting like this.
the rookies that were just rookies, or the upcoming rookies?
This year's rookie class,
Oh,
2018 draft,
Got it.
not 2017.
I got
We can
you.
talk about that in another
Who
show.
else
if
is
you
there
want.
really though? Like
2018
what other
draft.
rookies are there?
If you want to say, here, Drew, do yours, and I'll do mine. Favorite rookie, just favorite rookie for the draft.
My favorite rookie was Kevin Knox.
Kevin Knox. Okay.
I saw this man in college. I watched one of his games. He's on Kentucky, and this man, he wasn't a legend, but he was very close. He's a freshman out there playing against all these like juniors and seniors who's been here in the ACC, and he's out here just mix-saucing people, getting buckets, getting like 20 points a game. I'm really excited
You
to
say
see.
the ACC?
Yeah.
Kentucky is
No,
SEC.
SEC. But he's in a real division. He was a Big 5 team. Like,
But
They're playing
Kentucky
somebody-
does that every year.
they were playing somebody good, though. And this man, he was saucing. And then he would just go out and be a
PJ
legend.
Richardson.
So you think
What do you think about him?
I don't know who that is.
Kevin Durant or
He's
Kevin?
the-
You think Kevin Knox has the sauce?
Yeah, and also, but I think he's going to
Who
be really
drafted
good,
him?
especially he's on the. That's what I'm about to get to. I think he'll be really good because now you get to see Kevin Knox play on the Knicks with this guy named Kristaps Porzingis.
When he's back.
Gonna miss half of this
When he's
season.
back.
Yeah. But that will be fun to watch. Those are two very good power forwards that can both be moved, and I think that it's going to be very fun to watch those two.
When you saw Kevin Knox, he's 6'9", got good size, forward spot. He does need to get a little bigger. 215 is slightly skinny if he wants to play any power forward, but he scored almost 16 points a game, 5 rebounds, so he's solid. He's a good scorer. He's a solid rebounder, not great rebound, but he's okay at rebounding. He shot 34% though from the college 3-point line. So we'll see if he's able to adjust to the NBA 3-point line. But
Nick
he
Young got
clearly
inducted
is a
into
solid player because he shot
the Hall of
77%
Absurdity.
What's that?
from the free throw line.
Idiots.
True.
I'm sorry.
But we're gonna move on now. My favorite rookie in the draft. I really like Luka Doncic, and the reason I like Luka Doncic is because I think Luka Doncic has all the tools to really succeed in the modern NBA. And let's think about what that means. The modern NBA is a fast-paced game, floor spacing, switching on defense, versatility, especially for ball handlers. There's a lot of big ball handlers now. Ben Simmons, Giannis Antetokounmpo, LeBron James. And then you've got other guys that are bigs that are very skilled, like Anthony Davis, DeMarcus Cousins, Kristaps Porzingis. You've got a lot of guys that are becoming taller that can also do things like shoot, pass, and dribble, doing guard things. And yeah, KD, 7-footer that can shoot. But I think Luka Doncic is a very good modern age point guard because he is 6'7", so he's got forward size, but he has got the play style and the skill of a guard, and because he's a guard, but he's got the size of a forward, so he's going to be a really good combo guard, I think, because of his ability to pass. He's a natural born passer. He can shoot it. He can create his own shot. He can create shots for others. I think he really compares to a James Harden in the way that he's going to be able to control a game on the offensive end.
And what do we think about the Western Western Division in basketball? Like, there's competition.
There's a lot of
The
competition.
Lakers are coming. Kyle Kuzma, LeBron James,
The British are coming.
Okay. But yeah, I think that Doncic will end up being the best player from this draft just because we already know that he can do it on a professional level against grown men that are out there every night giving it all they've got to beat him. And so I think that he'll end up being very successful, and I think that's why I have him that's why I have him as the best player from that draft. And so I think the Mavericks got a good one. Let's go on to our last main topic, MLB award races. Drew, I know you were looking at an article about a week ago on this MLB award race, on an MLB award race ballot, I guess it was. And I know you had some opinions on that. I want to hear those.
So, well, first of all, you should know that I was not really filling out this ballot as who I thought was the most deserving person necessarily. But I picked a lot of A's and Braves players. Those are my two favorite teams. So I decided that it would be smart if I picked as many of them as I could. So I looked around and I saw AL Rookie of the Year, Lou Trevino. NL Rookie of the Year, what's his name? Ronald.
Who you actually is going to actually should win the awards?
Well. This is where it gets interesting. Because a lot of the guys I do think should. For example, Ronald Acuna, I think, is hands down should be the winner of the NL Rookie of the Year. MVP, because he is doing Jose Martinez, what's his name? Yeah, Jose Martinez. Actually, I think they're both on steroids. But, he's just killing the ball, but he's got so many aspects that Martinez doesn't, like his speed and his ability.
Martinez has no speed.
Not as much as Mookie, and he's a much better fielder. So I just think that Mookie's much more 5-tool, and so that's why I think.
Or
he should be
Ramirez,
MVP.
right?
Hmm?
Wait a minute, hold on. So you have Mookie as your AL MVP.
Yeah.
It's Jose Ramirez. That's what I was saying.
Oh, in NL MVP, I have Freddie Freeman because I actually do think that he's the most deserving person because he's carried a Braves team. The difference between him and a lot of people is the Braves weren't good last year. So he has boosted the Braves from a bad team to where they are now compared to a lot of these other guys being on teams that were good already and not really making them that much better.
By the way, Jose Ramirez has more stolen bases than Mookie Betts this year.
NL Cy Young, I have Kyle Freeland just for the memes. It's a long story with Van and Owen Noland saying that Kyle Freeland was the best pitcher. No, they said that he was the Rockies had the best pitching staff of all time. That was Russell Tabor, and then they corrected that by saying that. Deserving of the Cy Young because of the way he's pitched this year, and he's just been killing the game. He's been getting save after save, the sub-1 ERA, and it's just like you can't ask for any more from a relief pitcher. And so if you're not going to give him the Cy Young now, what is he going to be able to do to get the Cy Young? And so I feel like you kind of got to give him the Cy Young. He's having a career year at like 31. You can't ask for more than he's giving. He's giving that good of a performance. NL Rookie of the Year, Ronald Acuna, because he's the best player. Juan Soto's good. He's not Ronald Acuna. And Reyes Maranta is on the list. Reyes Maranta? He has like an ERA of like 8. What the heck? Okay. So, yeah, I think that Ronald Acuna. And then AL, it's really only 3 guys in the conversation. Gleyber, Shohei, Miguel Andujar. But the person I voted for was Lou Trevino. Mostly because he was on the A's, but I do think he's deserving of winning because of the way that he has showed up as just a setup man, and it's kind of the same deal as what's his name, where you can't ask for any more of him, and so if you're not going to give him the Rookie of the Year now, how can he make himself better to get the award? Like, he's done all you can ask for from a reliever, and maybe he's not that blow you away guy. He doesn't have a 0 ERA, he doesn't have 500 strikeouts, but if you ask opposing hitters, they're like, this is the guy I don't want to play against. So, I got Lou Trevino.
Okay. So, do you have an NL Cy Young though?
NL Cy Young. I already did that, Kyle Freeland.
Oh my bad, I forgot about that. Alright. My predictions, I guess we'll start out with the Cy Youngs in the NL. I really don't think you can go anywhere besides the direction of Jacob deGrom. And I mean, there's obvious reasons why Jacob deGrom, why I say Jacob deGrom should be the not the MVP, but the Cy Young Award winner. I mean, he's leading the league in ERA, and that always helps. He sorry, Chris Sale. Sale and Verlander, I think, have been the two best pitchers. I mean, Sale, you've got a 1.96 ERA. That's obviously incredibly good. Verlander, no slouch. He's actually risen it up to a 2.72, but 15-9. So, I guess my pick is going to be Chris Sale, 12-4 record, 1.96 ERA. He's having a great year. The strikeouts are up over 200. He's at 221 right now. In case it's pretty apparent that he is, or he's been the best guy. So I'm gonna give it to Sale. And I know you said that what more can you ask from a reliever than what Blake Treinen's doing? Well, the thing is, you may not be able to ask more from Blake Treinen, but you can ask more from Chris Sale than what Blake Treinen is able to give you, because Chris Sale is in a more valuable spot where he's able to go that many games and pitch that well over long stretches of game, more innings, all that. Then I'll get into the Rookie of the Year. And Rookie of the Year in the NL, it's definitely between Juan Soto and Ronald Acuna for me. And when you look at their stats, they're very comparable, actually. Juan Soto, not quite the power hitter that Acuna is. Acuna has 5 more home runs, and his slugging percentage is about 50 points higher, but in terms of on-base percentage, it's like the opposite way. You've got Acuna has nearly 40 points less on-base percentage. Juan Soto has the higher average. They have the same amount of runs scored. Acuna has literally 1 more base hit and a few less at-bats. So they're very comparable, but Acuna, I'm going to give Acuna the edge. He's got 12 more stolen bases, and his OPS is slightly higher. So when you do add up the on-base percentage and the slugging percentage, Acuna does have the edge there. And so when you combine the speed that Acuna possesses with that OPS boost, the slight OPS boost, I'll take Acuna. But honestly, both of them great players. They're going to continue to be that for years to come. That's why they're the two best rookies of the year. And then Gleyber Torres in the AL is definitely the Rookie of the Year. He is not quite on that level. He's about 20 batting average points less than those two guys, but 23 homers, 70 RBIs. He's had a great season. He's definitely my AL Rookie of the Year. But then we go to the topic of the MVP award. And I'm going to start with the NL. And now, my pick is going to be Nolan Arenado. I think Nolan Arenado is an incredible player. He, right now, is hitting, he's hitting almost 300, 34 homers, 100 RBIs. I mean, there's not much more you can say about that. His OPS is almost 950. I know he's playing in Coors Field, and his stats are a lot better at home than they are on the road. That has to be mentioned. But the man is just he's playing incredibly well, and that can't be just overlooked. He's playing. He's having a great season. He's on a good team. I think that you've got to go Nolan. And in the AL, I do feel a lot more strong about this one. My pick is JD Martinez. JD Martinez right now tops in the tops in the AL in hits, tops in RBIs, slugging percentage, total bases. I mean, he's overall, I think, clearly the best hitter. I know Mookie has a lot higher batting average than JD does, but a 331 batting average, obviously he's no slouch. He's hit now 41 home runs. I mean, there's nothing else I can say about that. I think he's been the best player because of those reasons, and he's competing for the Triple Crown. And anytime you have someone flirting with a Triple Crown year, I think you have to pick them as the MVP. Mookie's batting average 8 points higher, but he's got 12 less home runs. I give the edge to JD. And that's going to wrap it up for the main part of our show. Now let's get to what we want to see. I want to see a longer NBA season. And when I say that, I do not mean more games. 82 is plenty of games. I think longer NBA season because in terms of how many days those games are stretched over. And I think that makes sense for multiple reasons. One, at the end of NBA season, all that is happening is the middle of baseball season, which is a lot of games that are sort of meaningless. It's not even the beginning anymore. It's sort of the boring part where we're just like, all right, can we get to the All-Star break? It's really there's nothing going on during that part. So why not just extend the NBA Finals like a couple weeks out into there, and that reduces back-to-backs. That gives players more rest time, which means what? It means that players are going to be actually playing in your primetime games on ESPN on Sunday nights, which the NBA has been complaining about because there's been a lot of rest lately because of all the back-to-backs and 4 games in 5 days. I know they're already doing a lot to decrease those, but you can decrease those even more if you just stretch the season out a lot more. You will decrease injuries. Everything will be better. We had a lot of NBA superstars getting injured last year. It was way too many. If you stretch that out, that decreases. Maybe Kyrie doesn't get hurt. Maybe Kristaps and DeMarcus don't get hurt. And then it's a lot better for everybody because no one likes to see anybody go down with an injury. So I think that longer NBA seasons in terms of calendar months, calendar days, would be a good move for the league. And Drew, what do you want to see?
What I would like to see, it's pretty simple. So we have an Xbox, and we don't have a good baseball game for the Xbox. So what I would like to see is somebody just decide that they want to either put MLB The Show on the Xbox or make something comparable on the Xbox that does not have to be MLB The Show level. It just has to have a way to create players. It has to have a way to have a My Career. It has to have a way to have a franchise mode. Those are 3 things. And then obviously just quick game.
You want a simulation baseball game.
A comparable simulation baseball game.
Here's the thing: they can't put MLB The Show on Xbox because MLB The Show is made by Sony, who makes PS4. So they can't put it on Xbox because that just wouldn't make sense business wise. But I definitely think that Microsoft can jump on there and make a good game that's basically the same thing if they really wanted to. I don't know. Maybe they just don't think it's worth the money. They wouldn't sell enough. But, I mean, I would play that game if I was able to get a similar game. Definitely. So I agree with you there. Let's get into the real wrap-up part of the show. Drew, take it away. This is your session. Let's do the state of the game.
State of. So, we'll spin the thingy. We got the Hawks.
State of the Hawks. Actually, you want me to go first?
Yeah.
All right. Hawks, okay. I think Hawks are not in a great spot, but Trae Young is a player that I think can be he's going to be a good player. Like I mentioned earlier, he's a very good pure point guard. He can pass the ball. He's a good playmaker, I think, right now. If he can get his shot consistent, he should be one of the better point guards in the NBA. Top 10 eventually, not this year, but in 5 years down the road, he could easily be a top 10 point guard, possibly top 5 if he's able to shoot the ball consistently like he was at the beginning of the year in college when he was lighting it up from deep. So I think they are in not a great position, but the fact that they do have Trae Young, who has potential, is a very good thing. They also have Amari Spellman, who I think is going to be a very good player because he can shoot, he's athletic. I think that was a good pickup. So I think they're going to be okay because of who they got in this last draft, but they're definitely not in a good position because you don't know if Trae Young's going to turn out to be good or not. It's a lot of uncertainty.
I don't like Trae Young because I think he showed off the first half of the year, but the second half of the year he had a lot of problems with turnovers and bad shooting percentage. And guess what? That doesn't go away when you go into a harder league. So I really don't think he's prepared to be in the NBA, and he should have taken an extra year of college, and it would have served him well. So I do not think, well, obviously the Hawks are the Hawks, but I don't think that Trae Young is helping them as much as he could. Now, let's get to football. We got who did we get? The Texans. Yay. I'll go first on the Texans. I like the Texans. Texans are good. They took a tough loss week 1 against the Patriots, who you're just gonna lose to, unless you're the Jacksonville Jaguars. Knock on wood. So
Should have knocked on wood before the AFC Championship game.
thanks. But the Texans now get week 2 against the Titans, which should be a game they can win. The Titans are not that good, and if you lose to the Titans, then you are not making the playoffs. I'll give it to you straight.
Especially with all the injuries that
They have
they've had.
Deshaun Watson, who I think is still acclimating back to the NFL after missing most of last season. And as happened a lot in 2018, didn't play much in the preseason. So he's still getting up to pace, but I think once he does, their team will be very good.
Texans, I'm similar. I'm not quite as optimistic because although there is definitely an adjustment coming off of a huge injury like the one Deshaun had, you have to wonder who is the real Deshaun Watson. Technically, we don't know. It could be that he's just not as great as he was last year. Same goes with Jimmy Garoppolo, but with Deshaun Watson, there's a chance he's not as good as he was last year. I don't think he's as bad as he played in week 1. But we'll see. I think they're going to be in a good spot, though, because I do believe Deshaun Watson is a lot closer to the player he was last year than the player he was in week 1. So, I believe in the Texans. I believe in Deshaun Watson. I wish J.J. Watt wasn't injured so much because it just sucks to be injured all the time. DeAndre Hopkins is obviously one of the best receivers. I think they're in a very solid spot to potentially take over the AFC if Tom Brady ever retires.
Okay, let's get to baseball now. We got the Giants.
Oh,
This
the
should be-
Giants.
I'm going to make mine quick and get out of here. Chris will do the rest of the show. But basically, Giants need to rebuild because their core is too old and they don't really have any young talent because they've been trying to win with an old core. So they need to they're like a rotten apple, basically. Bad
A
core.
rotten apple.
Can't do it without the core. Gotta rebuild.
Not gonna lie, I've never heard that one before. But I do happen to agree. The core of the Giants right now is rotten. It's too old. They need to throw that core away and replace it with a new core that can win 15 years, 10 years down the road maybe. They need to go fill Houston Astros and tank. I believe I mentioned this in our pilot episode when I said that I think that the Giants need to rebuild. Because they do. The Giants suck right now. And as my boy Taylor Wong said, shout out to my boy Taylor Wong, the Giants bullpen literally can't save a game. Like, if you give the Giants a 5-run lead and put it to their bullpen, chances are they're going to lose. They literally are just coming off of an 11-game losing streak. That was the worst in franchise history. This team needs to be rebuilt. There was hope at the beginning of the season. They were sitting around 500, but they just traded away McCutchen. I don't think you can sign back Bumgarner because that doesn't make sense with the direction your team's going. I think they should honestly trade Posey, get more draft picks, which actually, I don't know if I think Drew said they actually can't do that, but you can get compensation picks. Trade away Posey for prospects, actually. Yeah, trade away Posey for prospects, get draft picks for compensation. Just trade everyone away, tank, lose 112 games for next year, for all I care. Average losing 100 games over the next 5 years, for all I care. But come back 8 years from now and win the World Series. That's what I think they should do. That is what the Houston Astros did. They just tanked. They stocked up on a bunch of great prospects. They all hit the MLB. The team became great. That seems like a move to me, to be honest with you. This core is done. They're one of the oldest cores in the league. The supporting cast isn't that good. The pitching staff has been bad, especially because of their injuries. The bullpen's been horrible because the bullpen is horrible. They just need to rebuild. They just need to scrap it all, restart. If they do it correctly, the Giants should win a World Series by 2030. I know that's a long-term plan, but that's what it takes to tank. Got to commit to it. And that's going to do it for our show. Again, it was a little bit longer than we want. We'll try and work on getting those a little shorter so that they're easier to listen to. But if you did make it to the end, appreciate it very much. Thank you so much for listening. And we'll see you next week for episode 5. See ya.